Hello and welcome. I'm Kriti Mehta. You're watching the World Report on NewsX World. Let's take a check of the top headlines this hour. Canada's Prime Minister Mark Carney likely to visit India in early March as Ottawa steps up efforts to diversify trade away from the US, focus on agreements on energy, uranium, critical minerals, AI and quantum computing. Federal officials are standing firm on their account of the Minneapolis shooting as video evidence appears to contradict key elements of their narrative. The case has intensified political scrutiny, public anger, and renewed debate over federal law enforcement accountability in the U.S. Protesters gather in Minneapolis to demand federal immigration agents leave after a 37-year-old man is fatally shot by Border Patrol, intensifying local outrage. Governor Tim Walz calls on President Trump to withdraw the agents as demonstrations and political tension grow over the incident. The Kremlin on Monday said the U.S. trilateral talks in the UAE between Russian and Ukrainian negotiators had been held in a constructive spirit, but that there was still significant work ahead. Hamas's military provides details to truce mediators on the possible location of the last captive's body to be returned to Israel under the U.S.-brokered ceasefire. Philippine authorities are searching for survivors after a passenger ferry sinks in southern waters, leaving at least 18 dead and many missing. European Union investigates Elon Musk's social media X over whether Grok violated rules and disseminated illegal content such as sexualized, manipulated images in the European Union. A private jet carrying 8 crashed in flames as it was taking off from a Mayan airport with 8 aboard, but their fate and identities are not immediately known. Starting with the top focus now, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has said that preparations are underway for this week's trilateral meetings with Russia and the United States. Breaking news updates coming in. Speaking about recent talks in Abu Dhabi, Zelensky said both military and unresolved political issues were discussed. The meetings aim to address ongoing security concerns and explore potential pathways towards conflict resolution. Zelensky emphasized that while challenges remain, dialogue continues as leaders work to find practical solutions. In fact, some more breaking news updates coming in from Canada now, where in fact, the United Kingdom, where British Prime Minister Keir Starmer will travel to China on 27th of January, accompanied by business leaders including AstraZeneca CEO Pascal Soriot. The trip marks the first British prime ministerial visit to China in 8 years and aims to strengthen ties between the countries on trade and diplomacy. Reports suggest that the UK and China plan to revive a UK-China CEO Council with British and Chinese companies including AstraZeneca expected to participate. Starmer is also expected to raise sensitive issues with Chinese President Xi Jinping, including espionage, the treatment of Uyghurs, and the detention of Hong Kong pro-democracy activist Jimmy Lai, while taking a hard-headed approach to Britain's economic and security interests. And now moving ahead, viewers, we're getting some fresh updates from the U.S. State of Minnesota. Now, a federal judge is set to hear arguments Monday in Minneapolis over whether to temporarily halt the federal immigration crackdown in Minnesota. The lawsuit comes after 2 deadly shootings by federal immigration officers, most recently the death of ICU nurse Alex Pretti. Pretti was a licensed gun owner with no criminal record, and he was shot during a border patrol operation. Officials say he posed a threat, but video shows him holding a phone, not a weapon. Minnesota and the cities of Minneapolis and St. Paul argue the federal actions go too far and want to restore conditions to what they were before Operation Metro Surge began in December. Attorney General Keith Ellison plans to attend Monday's hearing personally. The Trump administration says it is reviewing the incident, but tensions between federal agents and local leaders continue to grow, with protests spreading across Minneapolis and St. Paul. Eric Lemcool, a senior journalist from Atlanta, joins me in this discussion. Eric, thanks very much for joining me. This indeed is very concerning after Rennie Good now. Another man shot dead, Alex Pretti. Why do you think the federal agents are unable to provide the body cam footage when they have those cameras installed? Eric, can you hear me? All right, viewers, we're encountering some audio connection issues with our guests there, but more details now coming in as far as the shooting of Alex Pretti by the ICE agents in Minneapolis and Minnesota are concerned. Taking you through the latest updates now, the federal judge will be hearing arguments on Monday on whether to temporarily halt ICE crackdown in the state of Minnesota. This, of course, coming after two back-to-back deadly shootings by federal immigration officers, and the latest one of Alex Pretti, who was a licensed gun owner but had no previous criminal record. Officials are saying that he posed a threat, however, but video shows him only holding a phone and not a weapon. Attorney General Keith Ellison is also now going to attend the hearing on Monday. Trump administration is saying it is also reviewing the incident, but clearly, needless to say, tension between federal and local leaders are growing, and protests are now spreading in Minnesota, particularly in Minneapolis and St. Paul. Protesters bearing the brunt of the cold winter storms, they are still gathering in protest in Minnesota. Of course, they are being met with a federal crackdown there. Eric Lemcool is back with us in the discussion. Eric, if you're able to hear me, of course, Alex Pretti's shooting has raised, in fact, renewed the concerns over impunity that the ICE agents have. But my question to you is, why has the body cam footage not been released in either of the cases?
Well, I think when you compare the two situations from the first shooting to this shooting, it's significantly different. There's more. This situation with Mr. Pretti is going to be a little bit more complicated because there's more individuals directly involved, and for two, it is kind of hard to see exactly what is going on in the little scuffle. There's a lot of camera angles that the Department of Justice is going to have to go through, and just as Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche stated this morning, that there's still a lot to go through, and they still have a lot of camera angles to see. They haven't seen everything yet, so there is an active investigation going on, and these things will get hashed out. As far as fault, we'll find that out as soon as they conclude their investigation. I think as of right now, both sides of the fence are acting on emotion as opposed to what rationale needs to have transpire. So I think it's just wise to wait and see what comes out. Obviously, we haven't seen the body cam footage yet, if there is any, which I'm sure there is, and we'll see what they come up with.
And as far as the question of sanctuary policies are concerned, Minnesota, of course, has refused to repeal them. But do you see other states adopting similar measures amidst this brutality with which ICE agents are now really carrying on their operations?
When it comes to ICE operations, obviously ICE is responsible, and Border Patrol and Homeland Security, those agencies are responsible for keeping the United States of America safe, and that goes from border to border. So for Minnesota to just declare, whatever they want to declare, uh, that's going to be in conflict with the United States government. We have to remember that Minnesota is its own entity. They're a state. They're supposed to fund themselves. They're supposed to, to govern themselves. However, when it comes to federal law, they do have to follow federal law. So the immigration policy is pretty clear. If you cross illegally, it is a crime. So that is something that they're going to have to, decide. Are they going to continue to go against federal law? And I think that is part of the problem with our justice system as a whole. We have watered down crime, and that's not how the United States was built. We were built on a checks and balances system. We were built on a solid judicial system, and it has been watered down over time. Now we're to the point where politicians can get in front of a TV camera and pick and choose what crimes they want to enforce and what crimes they don't want to enforce. But my message to them is, you are the lawmakers. If you do not like how a law is written, get together and propose a change to the law. Your job is to not get in front of a TV camera and influence the United States citizens to have an upheaval to force a law to not be followed. So they're in violation of federal law. Now they can protest. Protest is a constitutionally protected event. However, we're seeing now they're busting out windows of hotels. They're trying to force their way past Minneapolis PD. So these things are escalating, and I blame this on leadership. And this can go both ways. President Trump can do more. Tom Homan can do more. But we also are seeing Tim Walz is encouraging people to violate federal law. So this is something that needs to get a handle on, and instead of biting back at each other, they need to sit down and really sit and figure this out. We're so divided as a country. Sure. that common sense dialogue is not happening.
Eric, is there sufficient evidence to prove that Pretti had immigrated illegally, given the fact that he was an ICU nurse and possessed a legal gun?
So here's the discrepancy that I have when I watch all the videos. So yes, he's a U.S. citizen. He worked for the VA. He seemed to have a pretty stable, law-abiding life. He had a firearm that was registered. He had a concealed weapon permit. He seemed to be doing everything correct. However, to interject himself when ICE is dealing with that woman, that's what I saw, was he interjected himself in a potential arrest and detain situation. So that is where he started to violate federal law. So that's when these protesters, they have to understand that when law enforcement, whether it's right or wrong, and this is where I go back and I say that our justice system is broken overall, is because the citizens are supposed to depend on the courts and whatnot to solve our issues. So if this young man, Mr. Pretti, sees that ICE is violating somebody's constitutional rights, that is an issue for federal court. That is an issue for civil suits. It's not an issue for him to interject himself in a situation that he may not fully have a grasp on. She could have had a weapon or been mentally unstable. We don't know. And for him to just interject himself, it places him in a liability situation. It places himself in a potential to be in an aggressive situation. And then on top of that, he had a firearm on him. During this this scuffle, we don't know, as a law enforcement officer, we don't know if he had planned on using this firearm. We didn't know if he had the proper documentation. He just instantly interjected himself in a situation where officers were trying to potentially detain a woman. So it just depends on what spectrum you look at it. It could be something as innocent as he's just trying to help get her out of the way. He could have been trying to assist her. She was falling to the ground, and as a medical professional, he was there to help her. So we don't know the specifics. You could look at this both ways and say, well, maybe. But as a whole, our justice system really needs to put these pieces back together. Over the last 40 years, we've watered down our justice system and the usefulness of it, and it's turned into a huge political ideology. Both sides of the fence have used it as a political tool, and that's completely opposite of what the United States of America is about. That's where I would start as a lawmaker. If I was a lawmaker, I would start with, how do we take the politics out of the justice system?
All right, Eric, thanks for your comments. Requested to stay on as we proceed now to cover some news from Europe as well. Now, Germany's foreign minister, viewers, has recently stated that Europe and the US agree on numerous key security issues, reaffirming the strong transatlantic partnership. Following talks with US officials, he highlighted shared commitments to defending Ukraine, supporting its sovereignty, and maintaining peace in the Arctic region. Both sides have consistently underlined the importance of upholding international law, including territorial integrity and sovereignty, amid growing global tension. The minister stressed that European and US collaboration is critical, especially in the light of the ongoing Russian aggression in Ukraine. He emphasized that transatlantic unity remains vital in countering external threats, particularly from Russia and China. Additionally, the US has pledged to address Arctic security concerns within the NATO framework, showcasing the close cooperation between the two sides. While acknowledging the alignment of interests, the minister also pointed out the importance of dialogue in managing any differences. He emphasized that diplomacy, both within the European Union and with the United States, is crucial for addressing challenges effectively. Eric, request you to join me with a quick comment on this. Of course, one minister is going on to say that ties are, still strengthening, they are still working on them. And then another minister from Germany is coming out and criticizing Trump's NATO comments over, European countries' deployments in Afghanistan before Taliban. So clearly, there is a difference as far as reactions to Trump's policies from within the European Union are concerned. How do you see these contradictions?
I mean, I think you're seeing Europe trying to figure out what to do. I don't think they have the full game plan put together, or how they're going to deal with a lot of these issues that President Trump is bringing to the table. I think you're seeing some European leaders start to soften up and say, well, this could work. President Trump's plan could work. And then you're seeing some European leaders are coming out and saying, no, we're going to resist this. It didn't help where President Trump went to the World Economic Forum, and it appeared that many European leaders, took a knee to President Trump. I don't think a lot of them like that. Some of them just said, hey, why fight it? And let's just go with the program. So there's a lot of changing going on, and French President Macron stated at the World Economic Forum that the old world order is gone. It's something new's happening. So I agree with him, and I don't agree with him on many things, but I agree with his statement there that things are changing, and it's still uncertain, I believe, as to what direction Europe is going to go. But I do think that we're going to see a lot of changing of the guard go on all over the place.
Erica, we'll leave it at that. Thanks very much for joining us here for this discussion. And I'm moving ahead, viewers. The European Union has launched an investigation into Elon Musk's X over its Grok AI chatbot. The probe focuses on whether the platform properly managed risks linked to the creation and sharing of sexualized deepfake images, including content involving minors. European Union officials are examining if X failed to prevent illegal content under the bloc's Digital Services Act. This marks the latest move in a growing backlash against the AI tool, which has raised global concerns over safety, ethics, and potential child exploitation. The Commission's investigation could lead to fines or other measures if X is found in violation of European Union rules. Let's listen into what the European Union Commission spokesperson Thomas Reiner had to say.
Today, the Commission is opening an investigation into Grok under the Digital Services Act because we believe that X may have breached the DSA. We have seen over the last weeks and months anti-Semitic content. We have seen non-consensual deepfakes of women, and we have seen child sexual abuse material. In Europe, no company will make money by violating our fundamental rights.
Ross Feingold, political analyst from Taipei in Taiwan, joins us in this discussion. Ross, thanks very much. Firstly, of course, Grok and X and Elon Musk, of course, now being cornered, and rightfully so. What do you think can the platform really do to prevent such sexualization of images? Of course, what we saw it had done by way of instituting a paywall doesn't really help. So how can the world leaders really come together in preventing such harmful use of AI?
The approach from the platforms, excuse me, whether it's X or other platforms or Grok, is that they're going to say we continue to improve our systems, our software, and we do our best to eliminate this kind of illegal and sick activity from our platforms. The approach from the regulators is going to continue to be that you're not doing enough and you're responsible and you have legal liability, which might include fines or other types of punishments. But there's also a very important foreign relations political aspect to this. Is it's pretty clear where this is going. The European Union is highly likely to impose fines on X or Grok. And the United States, the Trump administration, is very likely to say that this is a discriminatory action against an American company. And it'll just be one more item on the list, the growing list, of tension between the U.S. and the European Union.
All right, Ross, do stay on with me as we now proceed. Viewers, as far as the Board of Peace is concerned, for Gaza's reconstruction, there's some more news coming in. Now, Cambodia will join Trump's Board of Peace. The country's Prime Minister Hun Manet has said in a Facebook post on Monday. He stated that joining the board demonstrates Cambodia's goodwill and strong commitment to global peace. Over 35 countries have signed up to join the board, including regional Middle East powers such as Israel, Turkey, Egypt, Saudi Arabia, and Qatar. Traditional U.S. allies, namely European countries and Canada, have been reluctant to commit to the initiative or its membership fee. Ross, how do you see Cambodia now joining the Board of Peace?
It's clear a number of countries joined the Board of Peace because they had an interest or considered themselves a stakeholder in the reconstruction of Gaza and the well-being of the civilians in Gaza, which is a very legitimate concern for a number of countries that have long considered themselves a stakeholder in the well-being of the Palestinians. A number of countries are clearly joining because they believe that it will earn them good points with President Trump. And that's not a criticism. I mean, that's just the reality of international relations and the power that the United States has. A number of countries clearly think that by joining the Board of Peace, they'll get credit with President Trump. What remains to be seen is whether or not some of these countries, including Cambodia, will actually pay cash, because under the charter of the Board of Peace, if they want to be a long-term or permanent member, there's a price to be paid, and the price is $1 billion, which could be a little expensive for countries like Cambodia. So a short-term roll of the board of peace, it's understandable why countries would do that. Whether or not they're going to play a long-term role remains to be seen.
All right, Ross, that's all the time that I have in this discussion. Thanks very much for joining me. Moving ahead now, viewers, some more news coming in. Meta, TikTok and YouTube are all facing court this week over claims that their platforms contributed to a youth mental health crisis. The case in California Superior Courts involves a 19-year-old woman identified as KGM who says she became addicted to social media at a young age. She alleges the apps worsened her depression and led to suicidal thoughts. KGM is seeking to hold the companies legally responsible, arguing their products were deliberately designed to harm mental health. Lawyers say this is the first trial where tech giants must defend themselves in court over alleged youth harm. Mark Zuckerberg of Meta is expected to testify, and Snap CEO Evan Spiegel and has also agreed to settle. YouTube argues its platform is different from Instagram and TikTok. TikTok declined to comment ahead of the trial. That's all we have time for, viewers. Thanks for watching NewsX World. For more news updates from around the world.